Uncanny X-Men 193 begins with James Proudstar ambushing Banshee on Muir Island. Banshee thinks it's John Proudstar, aka the former X-Men Thunderbird, who died in one of their first missions, but before he can ask any more questions, James beats him senseless and knocks him out. Meanwhile, Leather Daddy Xavier awakens in the Morlocks tunnels. He doesn't know why he's there, and he can't remember getting beaten up in the previous issue, but Callisto tells him that he was on the brink of death and their healer saved his life. She also tells him that his powers will need additional time to heal and that he needs to take it easy for a while. She takes him on a short tour of the alley, and Professor X asks her why they don't move to the surface when Sunder arrives with Annalee's kids who have been shot. Callisto tells Xavier that the Morlocks will always be outcasts and then takes him home to the mansion. In the Rocky Mountains, James Proudstar laments over his brother's death, and he blames Xavier for it, thinking that Xavier must have psychically influenced him to join the X-Men in the first place. Roulette and Empath arrive, and even though James tells them that he doesn't want their help, they say they're going to back him up however they can. Firestar arrives too, and she is totally under Empath's sway and is ready to do anything he asks of her, believing that she loves him. In the mansion, the X-Men train with Cannonball in the danger room by playing a game of tag when Callisto and the Professor arrive. They all make fun of the way he's dressed and he leaves embarrassed. Elsewhere, Storm is traveling back to her home in Africa. She's ready to rediscover herself when she suddenly sees apparitions of some mountains and then next her dead mother, and she's convinced that the visions are trying to lead her on a path to fulfilling her destiny. Back at the school, Xavier is enjoying a luxurious bubble bath when Nightcrawler beckons him to the ready room. There, he has gathered the X-Men and they're all watching a video message from James Proudstar. He's holding Banshee hostage and he threatens to kill him if the X-Men don't meet him at the Valhalla aerospace base where his brother died. Wolverine worries that it's a trap, and he knows that even if the X-Men are successful here, invading a federal base will ruin their reputation and brandish them as outlaws again, but everyone's ready to take that chance for the sake of saving Banshee. After they arrive, Nightcrawler teleports everyone into the base, but Professor X stays behind in the Blackbird to use Cerebro and hopefully lead them to James's location. Roulette hits the Blackbird with one of her unlucky discs, and the system short circuits, knocking Xavier out. Lockheed tries to defend him, but Empath stimulates his fear emotions and Lockheed flees. Xavier tries to fight back against Empath, but Roulette hits him with some nerve gas and knocks him unconscious. Inside the base, Nightcrawler tries to get Rachel to locate Banshee's whereabouts, but she's got too much PTSD from her time tracking mutants as a hound, and she refuses to do it. Wolverine manages to get his scent though, so he and Kitty phase through the complex in order to find him. Meanwhile, the Hellions pose as student visitors in the base's war room, and Roulette uses her luck discs on the computer so that their sensors detect the X-Men as intruders. Empath stimulates the General into a full-blown panic, and he sends a bunch of Secbots after them. Wolverine and Kitty find Banshee all chained up, and as Wolverine fights with James, Kitty phases Sean out of the shackles and escapes with him. She comes back to help Wolverine just as the base releases some nerve gas, and both of them are knocked out, but James escapes. He has a crisis of conscience though, and he realizes that he doesn't want these X-Men dead, so he decides to bring them to safety, and then he goes on his hunt for Xavier. Meanwhile, the Secbots have located Nightcrawler's crew, and a big brawl breaks out between the X-Men and the robots. Firestar joins the fight, and she removes Colossus from battle, just as Nightcrawler is kidnapped and brought to the General for questioning. Nightcrawler recognizes the Hellions, and Empath imbues Nightcrawler with rage and hatred so that he betrays his own nature and fights with the humans. Outside, Rogue pursues Firestar, who is still flying off with Colossus. Just as Empath's manipulation starts to wear off on Firestar, Rogue catches up and pummels her, and then flies back to the base with both of them now in tow. Inside, James confronts Empath for interfering with his mission, as Kitty grabs Empath's feet and drags him away, where Wolverine scares him and he faints. Empath's power finally wears off, and Nightcrawler stops fighting with the humans, and he escapes with Roulette, who was also knocked out. Kitty tries to grab James, but he gets away from her, as his conscience continues to eat away at him for all the killing that this vendetta has brought on. He finally reaches Professor X though, who is still in the Blackbird and unable to use his psychic powers, and he tells him that he's going to kill him for tricking his brother into joining the X-Men, but Xavier talks him down and convinces James that John joined the team out of his own free will, and that he also chose to sacrifice himself so that the team may live. James is convinced, and he drops his knife and decides not to kill Xavier after all. Everyone regroups in the mansion, where the evening news details the X-Men's battle at the military base and calls them outlaws again. Lockheed makes his way home too, and James and Firestar tell them that they are going back to Emma Frost's school, even though Xavier welcomes them to stay with the New Mutants. In the house of Jamie Rodriguez, he and his friend argue about mutant rights and discrimination as his guest Nimrod, who's disguised as a robo-human, connects himself to the computer and learns that he's arrived in a different timeline than his own. He questions his function about how to properly defend humanity here, and then decides that the best thing to do is to neutralize threats that are deemed as outlaws, and he's going to start with the X-Men. Well, that's it for this issue. Be sure to stay tuned for my review video where I'll go in depth about my personal thoughts about everything that happened here. In the meantime, you can browse around my channel for more spoiler videos like this one, or check out my social media pages where I post a random assortment of X-Men related content on a daily basis. Thanks for stopping by and checking out this video today, and be sure to come back again soon for more Great X-Mentations.